Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We want you to be the healthiest, strongest, well version of yourself you could ever imagine. And we've got somebody that's going to help you out with that. She's an expert wellness consultant. She's Keena Lampkins on the program. Keena, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well, Steve. How are you?
Doing fantastic. And yeah, we want to be the best that we can be. Sometimes we get a little derailed. We're on different journeys. Life gets in the way. What would be, and you work with a lot of clients and you help them attain those goals, what would you say is the number one thing that we're missing when it comes to being who we want to be?
Right. I think optimizing our, including myself, well-being is probably the missing piece. We usually focus on a part of wellness or a part of being well and omit other parts that are equal players in us, establishing a higher sense of well-being. So with my program, I make sure I cover all of the major parts, the 5 major parts, which are nutrition, fitness, sleep, social connectedness, mindfulness. You have to start with mindfulness with everything. It starts with mindfulness. And in between those 5 things, I call it 360 wellness approach. Getting from surviving to thriving in those areas are going to is going to leverage that to help catapult you to flourishing, which is why I say I help my clients flourish, because flourishing means to rub off on others or to kind of reach for a sense of purpose that's higher than yourself. But a lot of times we can't do that if we're not well, if we haven't come to a certain state of well-being within ourselves. So if you can imagine, like your physician, for instance, coming in to treat you, and you hope that they come in as the best version of themselves. But what if they haven't been to sleep? Or what if they aren't eating well? What if they live isolated lives or aren't mindful, God forbid, So it's mastering those things or thriving in those areas. It's going to help you flourish as a person, to rub off and have a more positive effect on other people.
I love the way you put that, from surviving to thriving, because in my mind, when I hear surviving, you get by. You get by. Are you really having a great time with life? And, the opposite of that is thriving.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And we all have those moments where we just don't know what we're going to eat right next, and we find ourselves just speeding through a drive-through, and you're like, this is not my preference. However, I'm just trying to survive right now. I've got to feed myself.
Yep.
I can't get to sleep when I need to. So I'm going to take these 3 hours, 4 hours here or there, because I'm just trying to survive, those types of things. And so my goals with my clients are to bring them up from that type of scenario until they've gotten a hold of their sleep, they've gotten a hold of their nutrition and their exercise plan and their social life and mindfulness. And they're thriving in all those areas so that they can begin to be a blessing to others, flourish others, be more of a societal benefit and make a positive impact.
It's almost as if we just settle. Like when the examples you gave, we're going to go through the fast food restaurant, you're settling. Who wants to just settle when it comes to their lives? You really want to do well, not just accept, it's not good enough. It really isn't. And I love your approach, because you take it from literally the 360, where there are some really great life coaches out there. There's, spiritual, motivational people that can help you along, but they don't necessarily look at your entire life. And if you don't have enough sleep, you're not going to flourish. If you don't work out and exercise, hate to break it to you, everybody, you're not going to flourish. Yes, it's a pain in the butt to get to the gym, but there's a reason that so many people do it. And it's not to look great, just to look great, but it's also appear. It releases chemicals. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I agree with you. And, transparent moment. I came out of, the church. I was went to ministry school, and I volunteered in prisons for a long time and mentored several male and female inmates and different things of that nature. But by me having a health background, wellness background, I noticed over the years of me being involved in churches and different ministries and things that they did not touch on all of the parts of us as human beings. There was a hyper focus on the spirituality, but none on the physiological aspects, And I would unfortunately watch the ministers just go from hospital visit, funeral, weddings, and just run, without proper rest, without, proper diet and nutrition. And unfortunately, those types of things, even though you're doing good for others, can, have a really bad effect on you, on you personally, even though you're trying to do good. So that was one of my opportunities. I'm glad you brought that out, because it's very easy to focus on, just the spiritual, or just, just certain aspects of us being well, and neglecting others and not looking at everything as a whole.
The nice thing is with the younger generation, they get some of that. So they've got we need to take time for ourselves.
Yes.
Better work environment where
right.
Generation before them, and maybe the one before
right.
that, was just like work,
right,
and didn't
right.
take time.
Right. Yeah, that's my group that I'm after primarily, is the 27 to even 25 to 37-year-olds, the younger generation. I'm in my 40s, because I feel like they're more aware than my generation and prior, and possibly a generation before mine, like my mom, and that they're more aware. They understand balance a little bit better than we did. They understand, trying to attain a higher purpose higher than themselves, I think, better than we have. So I felt that in terms of mentoring, I'd be able to make more of an impact with the next generation.
Yeah. It's interesting how that changes, and give them a lot of credit, because they, that generation that we're talking about stood up, and that's why, and people listen. So that's why when you look at Google,
right,
and other companies, you see childcare in the company, you see game rooms, you see a cafeteria,
right.
excellent food choices, because it is a full holistic approach, and not just go to work every day, get it done,
right,
eat, and do it again the next day.
And that's kind of like that's one of the things with sleep that I like to argue. This get it done attitude, like I believe that the line of thought was that sleep is a wasted state. Like, if I'm not being productive, that is the, I guess, gold standard of types of states. There is a one where in which you can be productive, and you can't be, quote unquote, productive while you sleep. So I don't really need it. It's less important, where the sleep is what allows you to be productive, in a mindful, intentional way, and so I think that hyper focus on productivity has been off, and having a 360 approach to wellness brings a little bit more of a better perspective, so that in your awake state, you can be more impactful and flourish,
Everybody can relate to that. How many times did you not get enough sleep, and you're barely making it, you're surviving. You're just barely making it through the day. It is so, and here's my transparent moment, like you shared before. I was getting up at 3:54 a.m. for years. I've since changed that.
Mhm.
The backyard renovation, had some other stuff going on. Add that all together, not getting enough sleep. That was the bottom.
Right.
Gave myself an ulcer and didn't even know it. And I was just like, what is going on? It got to the point where and not many guys say this, like, I got to go to the hospital. Like something's not right. My blood pressure was up,
Right.
feeling something. And that's what it turned out to be. It was managed like that, went away, all good, but it was sleep. Absolutely. There's just no question about it. And then the stress that comes with that, because you can't deal with the stress if you don't have enough sleep, right?
Yes. Yes. It kind of affects your ability to be mindful. You
Mhm.
know, you're not able to be present in anything that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of have this treadmill thought processes where you just kind of go, or waterfall of thoughts, and you can't even enjoy the moment. You're just
Yep.
surviving.
Yep. Just getting by. So how do you work with people? I know that, as a wellness consultant, and by the way, if anybody wants to reach out, it's KeenaWellness.com. That's Keena, Keena wellness.com.
Yes.
How does it
Yes.
work with you? Is there a free discovery call? Like how do you do it?
Sure. Yes. They can go to my website and book a free 15-minute call. And that just gives me and them an opportunity just to make sure that what I have to offer is going to be a benefit to them and that we're a good fit. But primarily, I work with my clients through group coaching or one-on-one coaching. And I'm in the process of developing some resource materials, workbooks, and different things like that that will help um, my clients be able to internalize what we're discussing in the sessions a lot better.
I look at it this way. When somebody works with you, it's almost like they're getting the best of every world, because
Sure.
you just I don't want to minimize just a life coach, but in
Mhm.
working with you, we're talking about fitness, we're talking about your diet, we're
Sure.
talking about your mental
Sure.
situation, and all of that,
Yes.
and the mindset, all of that comes
Yes.
into play, which
Mhm.
for me, that's the way it should be. you can't
Yes.
you can't do one without the other.
Mhm.
They all
Yes.
have to be in balance, and they all have to be
Sure.
working together.
Sure. I call it a dedicated growth space, a dedicated growth space. And the reason I decided to not use the word focus group, because focus again is very linear, you know, and we're not just focusing on one thing. It's an open area for growth in all of the spheres that we mentioned: sleep, nutrition, exercise, social connections, mindfulness. It's a dedicated time for you to set aside in order to grow in all of those areas. So I feel like the clients love it. It's like a time to talk about these things. It's not counseling, right? It's not counseling at all, but it's just a space that they have, a self-care space that they've carved out for themselves to be intentional weekly, to thrive, to work on thriving in all of those areas and
It,
get
it,
away from scrapping and surviving.
it's funny because as we're talking, I would have so many questions for you. Like, it's from all the different areas, because they're all so important. And as a basic life coach, you're just talking about your goals. There's accountability, which you take care of as well. We're actually getting some questions. We're going to take a super short break and come right back. And we're talking to Keena, who is a wellness coach. She does it all. 360 approach. We'll be right back.
360.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses, and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We're talking about empowering you, helping you go from surviving to thriving. And that's with Keena Lampkins, and she's a wellness consultant. Question we've got coming from Becky. And Becky is checking in from Clearwater, Florida. She says, I heard you talking about sleep. We were just talking about that in my house the other day. What's the proper amount of sleep that somebody should be getting?
7.5 hours.
7.5. Okay. All right. I've often heard 7's like the magic number when it comes to sleep, or of course 8. But
right.
When was the last time you had a full 8 hours of sleep? I don't really know. I think I could tell.
Last night.
I'm jealous. Yeah.
Yes. So there are some exceptions to that rule. If your age plays a part, and the younger you are, like teenager, under 25, they need more sleep than we do. Their brains are still developing, so that would be kind of like one of the only exceptions. But for the rest of us, that I would say 22, 23 years old or over, 7.5 hours are appropriate. But I like to say that because sometimes parents get annoyed with their teenagers if they want to sleep all the time, but they actually do need that sleep. Yeah, they need 9 or 10 hours at that age, from like 17 to 23. So,
All right. Well, my son is 16. I'll shut up. Yeah. And on weekends, and when school's not in session, he's sleeping all day long because, of course, he's up at night playing video games. And
sure.
Let's go to diet. What's some of the recommendations? And there's this. I mean, it's a huge category, but
right.
What stands out for you?
I kind of like the genius and simplicity type of approach. And I've talked to a lot of people, and it's like, this is that. They've tried all these different things. But I always kind of start with the basics on that to say, are you eating 3 times a day? Are you skipping meals? And usually the answer is always yes. And it's this getting away from this idea of self-neglect, right? Because if I were to, ask a parent if they skip meals with their children, that could be a reason where Department of Children and Family Services come in and evaluate you. If your kid goes to school and says, hey, we never eat breakfast. Like, my mom doesn't feed me in the morning, but yet we do it to ourselves.
Interesting view of that when you think about it. Yeah. If you deprived your child of, even breakfast, we don't eat breakfast ever. You're right. It could be, some concern there, grounds for some concern.
Right. That the teachers would raise an eyebrow at that, and say, really, tell me more.
Yeah.
But we just run out of the house, we don't eat anything at 3 o'clock. And then, those types of things. So I like to start with the basics, make sure you're eating just a nice breakfast, lunch, dinner. If you want to do 5 meals, 5 small meals throughout the day, however you want to approach it. Probability is key there too. Because I asked the client, what's probable based on your job and your daily activities and responsibilities? What are you more probable to do? Eat 5 small meals, just three and done. But what's going to work best for you? Just make sure that you're eating, throughout the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. And if you don't recognize it, that you need to eat, you're probably, again, go back to the, thriving word. You're probably not doing as best as you could be doing. 'Cause I know it. I had to run out before. I'm like, I gotta eat. I'm not gonna
Sure.
focus. I can't,
Sure.
I can't help it,
Yes. And that's where mindfulness comes in, because if you're mindful, right, in the state of awareness, then you hear your body yelling at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it knows. You got to listen to it. How about
Yeah.
exercise? When we go there, there's all different things you hear, whether it's 5 days a week, 3 days a
Sure.
week, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. What do you got?
5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 days a week. Something greater than 10, 12 minutes. Yeah, something every single day, for sure.
And I know we're all busy, but if you can't squeeze out the 15 minutes 5 days a week, you got to retool your life. Something's up. Something's going on. Take a walk around the block. And I have friends that's how they lost a ton of weight, just by walking every evening, 7 o'clock, come home from work, eat something, the right kind of meal, and
Right.
go for a walk for like an hour and
Yes.
a ton of weight.
Sure. It definitely works. There's 101 benefits to exercise. Statistically, scientifically, peer-reviewed studies have been done. And so there are a lot of reasons to exercise and make that effort. But I tell people, okay, if you can't do 5, you can do first threshold, especially if you're sedentary. If you're not doing anything right now, then the first goal is 72 minutes a week, because the science supports, like being able to hold back diabetes, blood pressure, and other comorbidities with 72 minutes a week. If you're sedentary, if you're not doing any exercise at all, if you just got to 72 hours a week, you really take a pivotal turn in terms of your health. Yeah.
So with Keena, with those 72 minutes, can you move them any way you want? It just you got to get that 72 in there.
Yeah, you just got to get that 72 in there, 7-day week,
Okay. All right. That's that's doable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially nowadays with everybody working on their computer, if everybody's just
Sure.
got to get up and get it moving.
Sure. Yeah. And I tell my clients, I'm like, if you drink enough water during the day, you get up from that computer, because you have to go to the restroom.
That's true.
That's like a little tip. It's like, just keep your water here, and then
It really is true. And
Mhm.
and so many of us don't hydrate anyway. So now you're taking care of two things at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Interesting. What do you encounter the most often from people, Keena, that you work with? What's the main things that people tell you that they're dealing with in their lives, and why they're not thriving and moving things forward?
I think intentionality would be first. Not giving themselves the time or the space to figure it out, to even see what the root causes of things are. A lot of times people they scrape just trying to survive, and they say, well, I know I need to exercise, and they'll get out and they'll do it for a couple of weeks, but they aren't able to retain the habit, the healthy habit, because they haven't addressed kind of down the pipeline what's really keeping them from being successful, on a long-term basis. So it's about identifying the barriers, taking time to identify the different barriers and how things connect to one another, and look at the bigger picture, so you can start to get the traction that you need to be successful in, and start to really build and develop habits that will kind of get you to that thriving point.
You know what I've learned in my journey, and on a new one in the past year and change, but it's do the work. You have to do the work. It is work. There's things
It is work.
Yeah, it's and that could even it could be the mindset portion of the work, but It is work. It takes work to always be in a positive state of mind. It does eventually it comes easier. But we're all programmed, as kids to be negative from day one. There's every message out there. You're a 2-year-old, you go to the kitchen table and you want to grab something. You're just, and you're told, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, that's negative. You just picked up on a negative right there. So we're programmed that way. So to reprogram just to be positive is some work. But fortunately, somebody like you, a wellness consultant that helps people do that work, and the accountability behind it too. So you're gonna keep on somebody's butt if they're not doing that.
Yeah, they have to see me the following week, and I want to know how did you do on this goal that we set?
Yeah, Keena's gonna crack the whip, but it's all for the better.
It's all for the better.
All for the better. Tell everybody, if they go to your website, KeenaWellness.com, how does it work? Is it a free discovery call? Tell us about that.
Yeah, a free 15 minutes. They can go to my site and connect with me there. There's email. They can email, phone number. I can send a text message, or they can just book that 15-minute call, discovery call.
Love it. Excellent. Well, you know what? You've inspired me for my first goal here, and that is I am going to try and get 8 hours.
Yes.
Tonight.
Yes.
To try. It might come in the form of 10 milligrams of melatonin. I don't know what it's going to be, but I got to get it done because the last couple of days, just I'm here. I'm good. Last time was okay, but it was a busy weekend. But even at the very least, it's great that you do what you do in a 360 approach because it's so important.
Yes. It is important. I love doing what I do. And I'm looking forward to talking with you next week because I am going to be highly interested on your goal. I heard you say it. I got to
do the work. And refreshing to talk to you. And I love your passion and your vibe and your energy and looking forward to next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. See ya.
Thanks, Keena.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.